Hello, sixth graders. So this week in art, what you will be doing is melding your research from last week with your plan for this week. So here's what you're gonna do. First, you're going to go to this template and watch this short video by the art team about remote learning tips and tricks. Then what you're gonna do is you're going to take a selfie. Now I'm gonna talk about what's required in your selfie in a couple moments, but this is on slide 2, this is where you're going to put your selfie. You must get your selfie approved before you move on with any line drawing. You have to get this approved before you move on with any line drawing. On slide 3, you're going to circle or list which materials you plan on using. On slide 4, you're going to pick which artist from last week. You're going to pick one that's going to serve as inspiration for the rest of your project. So this can be in terms of style, in terms of technique, and it doesn't need to be an exact copy, but it's just something to give you inspiration from for the rest of your project. What is required from you this week is slides 1 through 4. If you get to it and your selfie is approved by your teacher and you're ready to move on to the next step, then you can start doing your line sketch for the week. As you can see, you can insert it here on slide 5. On slides 6, 7, and 8, there will be a link attached to the video on how to do each of these transform methods. They will also be linked in the instructions, but you must have your selfie approved before you move on to this step. So when you take your selfie today, here's what you need to think about. A portrait is a piece of art that captures the likeness of someone. A portrait only includes the head and the shoulders. It does not include any other part of the body. So when you're taking your picture today, you must have one from the shoulders up. It must include your face. Now your portrait can be smiling, it can be serious or a different expression, but you must include a shot from the shoulders up and your whole face. If you are here on this video, that means you are here for the grid method transfer for our self-portrait project. So what you'll need today is a printout of your selfie, a sheet of blank paper, a pencil, and a ruler. So basically, in a nutshell, the grid method involves drawing a grid over your reference photo and then drawing a grid of equal ratio onto your new work surface. So I would put a grid on my selfie and then put a grid on my new sheet of paper. You then draw that image onto your new sheet of paper by working on one square at a time until you have filled every single new square on your new sheet of paper with what you see here. So what you're gonna do to get started is have a printout of your selfie. I'm gonna put my blank piece of paper to the side. And what you're gonna do with your ruler is you're going to line it up on each edge and mark off by 2 inches. Once you have the grid, connect your lines. So now that I have my grid over my whole selfie, what I'm going to do is take my new blank piece of paper and apply the same grid to this. Have your gridded photo as well as your gridded piece of paper. Now what you're doing is using the grid as a reference to what's actually present in each square. So now what you're going to be doing is kind of looking at your photo one square at a time and seeing where everything lies. So for example, in this first square, I know that in my portrait, the biggest shapes include my body, so my shoulders, my head, and my hair. I don't think I necessarily want to include the background, so I don't even have to worry about that.
Method digitally, in case you don't have a printer, the way that you can do this is by still popping your selfie into Art Studio, going to Safari, and searching for a transparent grid. You want one that doesn't have any white behind it, that way you can pop it right on top of your photo. So what you can do is once you find the one you like, you can tap and hold, add to photos. You can then go back to Art Studio and do the same thing that you did when you imported your selfie. File, Import, Insert as Layer. And it'll pop on top of your selfie. And as you can see, you can still see your selfie underneath. Now to transform your grid, you do the same thing you did to transform your selfie, which was Edit, Transform Layer, Move Scale, Rotate. Now on a piece of paper, if you're marking about every 2 inches, you're going to get about 6.5 boxes across. So you can line up and a little bit down the side as well. You can line up the edge. So it kind of looks like this, with about part of an inch off the top and the bottom. If you want to see your grid more clearly, what you can do to make sure it's exact with your piece of paper is measure out your lines on your blank sheet of paper first, and then put the grid on top of your Selfie. That way you can kind of line up where those boxes are supposed to go.
Square right here. Okay, so in this square right here, all I have is this line of my shoulder. Now that I have the grid, I can visualize exactly where this line fits in. I'm basically just gonna match the line to the square. Now it doesn't need to be exact, but see, now I can kind of measure and see exactly what I need to draw. And actually, I just realized I can pull this in a bit closer. And I'm also gonna add this down here at the bottom. So now what you can do is you can go square by square and start to draw in the shapes that you see. So what this grid method is, it is a reference tool, a visual tool that allows us to accurately hone our observational skills as well as our measuring skills. And it's done so in a way that you're only focusing on one box at a time. So let's take a look at what I have right now. Let's take a look at this box right here. In comparison, when you're looking at this box, I have a hair, excuse me. When you're looking at this box, what do you notice I can improve? Right away off the bat, I noticed that I drew the top of my hairline all the way to the top of my page, when in actuality, my hairline ends at least like probably 1/8 of an inch down on my paper. So that's the first thing I could pull down. I also noticed that even though I do have a very big forehead, it is not as big as I drew it here. So I can automatically grab my pencil and really look at what this negative shape is. So that is closer to what is actually happening in that square. So for the grid method, what you're gonna do is you're basically going to continue to measure and draw out the rest of your portrait, just looking at your squares one square at a time.